rain. In this case, it's sunshine after the dry. Okay. What song do you know that starts with sunshine? Yes, thanks, Brian. I understand. Hi, everybody. No, but it's gonna be full soon. Look at it. Every day that it's in that place, it's going to be about 45 minutes later. So in a few days' time, when it's sunset, the moon will be there. It'll be rising just after sunset, and that'll be full moon. But hi, everyone. You have Mark and Becky, or Becky and Mark on the vehicle today. Whichever's politically correcter than the other, more correct than the other. Corrector. Mark and Becky on the Jigger, and Brian and FT, and this is Wild Earth, and this is also Thornybush Private Nature Reserve, home to a wide variety of Africa's wildlife. I don't think I've ever shown everybody where Thornybush is exactly. Maybe we should. Okay, I can do that. And then when it gets to, when we need to sort of go deeper in, like Google Earth, then I'll actually bring out a piece of paper. Okay, I could do that. Okay, let's find a piece of sand. They're hard to find here. We need to find a patch of sand. Sandy Patch. Remember Sandy Patch? Oh, you didn't ever meet Sandy Patch, though. She was gone by the time you got there. And her cub disappeared. Or did you meet her? Yes, we had stuff happening on Sandy Patch. My best with Sandy Patch, for those of you who remember, what we are talking about now, Becky and I, look, there's another line, but you can see this one's different, Becky. See the sort of triangular, the angular part of it. That's the monitor lizard. You can see its little feet. We were looking at a track earlier with a monkey dragging its tail, and at first glance one would think monitor lizard, but it wasn't. It was a monkey dragging its tail. This one's a monitor lizard crossing the road. So Becky and I are talking about there's a little spot on Zuma Game Reserve called Sandy Patch, just in from the gate, and a few hundred yards down from the gate is the Thornybush sand as you drive into Yuri and Pippa's Lodge. And that's called Sandy Patch, and there was a pride of lion called Sandy Patch. Well, it was a lioness and her cub. When Rex was still there, we had Sandy Patch. Look here for guinea fowl. This is for my mom if she's watching. Hello, please. Too much into the sun, Becky. I thought if you maybe parked in the shade, you'd have the sun. Fast side angle. We're going to stay in the shade now. And we're looking into lighting. Jigger, behave. What are people depending on you to do your thing this afternoon? Thank you. tomorrow. It's in the garage all day. Look at that kudu bull. Stay there. Let's get a nice shot of the kudu bull next to the most beautiful marula tree. Where did he come from? He just popped out of the bush from nowhere. And he's gonna just return to the bush. I'm not gonna see him if they try. Thickness of that neck. You get it?
Yeah.
What a magnificent bull. Recorded.
No.
I was just imagining it in my mind as he walked down that avenue and then just disappeared. Kid is not coming back. We have to go now. Wait for a minute. Should have had my camera out for that. Didn't even think about it. It's such an amazing thing. Come, we've got to go. Sitting in the sun. Better talk to the car. Under a mahogany tree. Quite nice. Get the right light. Hello, Baobab. straight over to the right. Mahogany is losing its leaves. Could be that he's picking up dead leaves. The interesting thing about Nyala, and some kudu sometimes do it, and bushbuck too. Some trees, especially trees that don't have thorns and spines, trees that have perhaps bitter or toxic leaves, when their leaves are dry, they lose their toxicity or bitterness, and the leaves can be a little bit nutritious. And you find Nyala would rather eat the dead leaves that fall rather than the living leaves. And I've noticed that with tambuti, because tambuti has a white milky latex that's poisonous. I mean, if we just get a little bit of on our fingers and we eat with our hands, we will get a little bit sick. Obviously they have different stomachs and they can handle things like that, but somehow the leaves are more palatable when they have fallen from the tree and the latex is dried. I know, he's going to come out in a dappled light, and if he would stand still you'd see why he would be so camouflaged. The tree is known as the Natal mahogany. Trachelia dometica. And actually I can't remember if it's an infusion of the bark or the leaves that is used as an emetic. Since it is an emetic for us humans, they must have pretty strong alkaloids. I think it is. And they probably diminish when the leaves dry up, and that's why he's eating them. What's interesting is the difference in the texture, or rather the greenery between the two trees, because they're two trachelias, they're two mahoganies, and one is a lot darker than the other. I'm eating grass under a fig tree. How's that for a peaceful scene in Africa? A Nyala bull grazing between two tall mahoganies. Where we're going now, Mr. Nyala bull? You want to come for a game drive? Would you like to step into the sun, please? Nyala bull. Gosh, he's magnificent. That's a Nyala bull in his prime. And he lets us get this close to him. I'm in the way again, no doubt. If I have to. My radio's been down. Hello, Sarah in New York. Sarah Kern. Sarah just noticed that the tips of the horns are white. Yes, that is quite characteristic of Nyala. So, Becky, what we're going to do today? No, that's the wrong answer. I'm supposed to say, same thing we do every day. Becky, look for Impala. Take over the world. One of my favorite cartoons. Did you ever see this? Oh, then that's why you don't know what I'm talking about. Big brain. Pinky and the Brain. It's like the secrets of Nim on ecstasy. Ecstasy. I don't know. Really a funny cartoon about too much damn life. Starts off every day. What are we going to do today? Take over the world. Same thing we do every day. Plan to take over the world. Okay, changing the subject, getting back to what we were talking about earlier. We were talking about Sandy Patch Lioness and a cub, and this poor girl had been through the wars. I mean, he has a lone lioness raising 3 cubs. She's been, actually I can't even remember her history. Check out the lines of the Bobby Sand page, I'm sure she's there. But there was a time when she was with her last cub, the little boy, and they were on Sandy Patch. Actually saw her there a few times. I think it was her shoulder. One of her shoulders was injured, or was it a hip? See, this is what I can't remember. I'm sure the viewers will help me out. But she had a shoulder or a hip injury. I think it was her shoulder, her left shoulder, if I'm not mistaken. If I can just picture that moment. There was some young giraffe, and the little boy was hungry, she was hungry. And for that moment of the rush of the charge, I suppose the adrenaline helped her with the pain a little bit. Into the charge and into the attack as she chased these giraffes. Obviously it gave in and she started limping and she had to give up the chase. And I think that's the last time I ever saw her with her cub. The last cub. I came to Gary Dam a couple of times. Eventually just faded from view altogether. Actually, sometimes it's best when that happens, because sometimes we can get so attached to animals. Sometimes when you live in a place, there's a flycatcher. In fact, you think you could get the moon and the fly? Not if the flycatcher flies away. Okay, nice thought. Dusky flycatcher. Yeah, we get attached to animals. We get attached to them also because we create characters for you to watch, and so we get involved and we get emotional about them, probably even more than anybody else out there, because we actually see them and spend time with them. And it's not always easy coming to terms with their disappearance, and sometimes it's better that they just disappear, or rather than actually seeing their demise. Because in nature that's not always pretty, and that's not always something everyone wants. A monarch butterfly. Going to settle for another Jala ball. Monarch's going to settle so we can capture it on film. I think so. African monarch. There's a white skipper there too, another one. Oh, that's a colossus. Orange. Hello, little boy. This is the local family of Nyala that we got now. This is the little boy just getting his horns, changing from that sort of girly coat to a more manly coat. You can see his white dorsal crest starting to get more prominent. He's actually got the beginnings of two little horns. Starting to get a little bit of a dark dorsal crest now. Age-wise, maybe about, I'm not sure, about a year. There's an older little boy in the back there, and an even older one. We've got 4 or 5 different ages here that just make an appearance. A yellow butterfly for Elizabeth. Either way, there's another little boy. You can see that little one. It's amazing because there's another lamb calf in front of it, but sorry, big one. Can't see it better. If only we could see them, because there's even another little boy now coming into frame that's even older. So it's almost like, look at his horns. His horns are just getting longer than his ears. One at the back there, his horns are just about as long as his ears. I think the leopards need to start eating Nyala. Small group like this, there's 4 different bulls, young bulls at different ages that are going to grow up. There are already a lot of bulls here. Here we go. The digger will let us. Okay, 3. Elephant. Onward to the elephant. If we like. kudu bull. Oh, but he's going to run away. He's 5 times the size of Nyala, yet you run away. But the Nyala, they're little things, and they just stand there and look at us and say, hello, human. Although I know why that is. So when kudu run away, it's best for us to run away as well. Show them that we don't mean them any harm, we don't want to chase them, we don't want to hurt them. So maybe in the future they will calm down and let us know. I think they might have been persecuted in the past. Nobody said a word this afternoon. No guests in camp. At some point today we have to go into the sun, as we do every afternoon. I guess now is that time. It works for me because it's the best way to see tracks. When you're looking at animal tracks, early mornings and late afternoons are the best times, because what you're doing is when you look into the sun, you're looking into the shadow of the track. And even the minutest imperfection in the sand translates as an image, as a contrasting image. So you see everything, every little nuance of the tires of the car and the freshness of the animal track. Doesn't work so great for the camera. Drove up there. Hello, Nicola. Nicola. Becky?
Yeah.
The high range crossing or the low range crossing? You don't have to. We don't ever get stuck. Oh no, well, that's the only one whichever crossing we take, we have to go, unless we. High range. This is high range. What track? You tell me. Okay, I'll believe you. This is the high range crossing, but we still have to go that way. What's that over there? Warthog. That's the same family we saw this morning. There's only one road to go up to Nyaleti. Okay, call it 2, but one is so bad. Eliminated. What's happened here? Yeah, you can see the rib. You can see the rib mark. See where the legs were. See where it sat up. head was that side. Or head was this side. Head was this side. Pick up anything. See, it's the mark where the roots were. Closer to me, I can see where the mane brushed the sand on its little wrist. Let me go back a little bit, maybe. You can't really see where its head. Oh, look, there's a piglet going over the road. It's hard to sort of explain, but we're rolling in the dust. Once or twice on the side, it can roll right over. The horse will run away. They stand here on the road and watch us, and as soon as I want to come to say hello, they run away. No, because those are two big ones. True, maybe. Could possibly be. I can't see you, you can't see me. Hello, Mrs. Piglet. And in total disgust, she whirled around, lifted her tail, and trotted off. Leaving an empty void. Isn't a void empty to begin with? So is it not tautology to say an empty void? Or is it something else other than tautology? Is it perhaps I don't know, what would you call it? Any literary viewers out there? Any academics on the subject of English language? What would you call an empty void? Is it necessary to say an empty void, or is it just leaving a void sufficient? I would like to know if Sharon in Austria is watching this afternoon. Sharon, if you're there, it won't take long to send an email. Meanwhile, I'm going to find a hyena track here that is going to be good enough to try and get on camera. There we go. We can get a better one. Always come back to that one. These ones are hardly noticeable. Brian, if he comes on. Yeah. Okay. Just in case Sharon sends an email that she's watching. So the best one would be closer to you, like here. Or here.
No. Oh yeah, that's not too bad. I was on the next one.
That one?
Yeah. Yeah, that one's probably the next one.
And sound-wise?
Now, talk.
Now I can talk.
Yeah.
I don't have to shout.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll have to repeat this if Sharon's not watching, but in case Sharon asked me to show you hyena tracks, everyone. and why they're different to other tracks. And these are actually remarkably sharp because there's a texture to the sand that's very powdery. If I put my foot there, give you scale, that's a size 8 foot. Can you see my foot?
Put it on the other side.
Put my other foot on the other side.
Yeah, I can't.
There.
Yeah.
So many times people ask me about how you tell the freshness of a track. And if you look at the tracks, especially where my toes have just been, how sharp those little ridges are. They're very, very sharp. And during the day there are insects and there's wind and there are leaves and grasses and all sorts of things that blow around. And it softens the edges of everything. But there hasn't been much wind today, and these tracks must be hyena tracks from relatively early this morning. So I'm going to show you now the different hyenas have got very, very small back feet, and they've got a lot bigger front feet because their front legs are longer and they've got heavier shoulders. They carry more weight on their front feet. There's actually very little weight on their back feet. So the back foot is this one here, this little one, and the pad if you look at the pad's only got two little loops at the back. Those two little loops, almost heart shaped, and then the toes are almost teardrop shaped. They're actually not regular shaped or even kidney shaped. And then there is a nail mark over there, there's a claw mark there, and there's a claw mark just there. This one we can't see the claw mark because the front foot actually obscures it. Much bigger. Does it help if I make a drawing like that? Do you think? I hope you can see that, because it's really a beautiful texture of sand, and you can't get better for looking at tracks than this. The soft sand that is sort of decomposed quartz or granite, the grains are far too heavy to get really good detail. This sand is mostly sort of crushed clay, so it's almost powdery. And that's why it's got very, very sharp edges to it. That's really nice tracks. And butterfly. Can you see the butterfly? That's landed next to my footprint and now flown away. You didn't see the butterfly. Too quick. The fastest butterfly in the west. Actually, we're in the eastern part of Thornybush. Hello, hello. Hi, Sharon. Good. Sharon's with us. You're welcome. And same back at you. No. Catherine. In where? Michigan? Huh? Nebraska. Look at the buffalo. Oh, Kathleen. Sorry, Kathleen. There's a buffalo. You can even see it. Bus stop here. Where's over there? I still see him. One river, but this one is difficult. I still have a bit of water. So you just didn't want to go under that tree? Twice I've managed to find a way that we don't have to use the stick. Maybe I can find it. Very fine line to drive to get the antenna to. Gentlemen, myself included. Kathleen, Nebraska. What was the question again? On the name so much I forget the question. Have I ever dumped it? That's why I was trying to forget the question. Have I ever dumped a cameraman off the back of the digger? No. Oh yes, no, there was on occasion I wanted to hang a camera person in a buffalo thorn tree. He's been in the mud, look how wet he is. And behind him is a big weeping bluebeam for Anna. I think I'm dedicating some stuff. Because Anna posted me a thing on the weeping bluebeam on my page on Facebook. Anna is an animal communicator. She goes around the world giving seminars on animal communication. She has an incredible insight into the thoughts of creatures, animals. Currently writing a book. That will prove to be very interesting, because it will be stories of, I suppose in a way to validate animal communication, but also just really wonderful, incredible stories of being able to connect to animals and communicate with them on such a deeper level as to understand their intent, or understand what it is they try and tell us all the time. Okay, I guess that's enough of a behind of a buffalo. Question for me. Raisa in Finland. Pardon? Oh, look, that's the effect. Coming to the aid of his old colleague. Hello, old man. No, we're just talking to him, I promise. We're just chatting. I meant no. Oh, and that's what you feel about the whole situation, is it? Didn't you do that to me this morning on the road? I think they do that on purpose. Anyways, hi Raisa in Finland. I'd like to hear from you. You need to know if there's a difference between spotted and brown hyena tracks. And yes, there is. It's a very subtle difference, but you're asking one who has never seen brown hyena tracks really well enough. Oh, cause Mark. Okay, maybe it's been enough. Raisa in Finland was asking whether there's a difference between brown and spotted hyena tracks. And while I've seen some brown hyena tracks, I've mostly only lived with spotted hyena. And they're a little bit smaller, they're a little bit more turned in. I can show you a picture in the book of tracks, or a spoor book. However, one doesn't really get a good idea of things just from a picture in a book. Taking that up. Except he doesn't want books to take. 24,000 shillings I paid for this book. It must be in Tanzania. Point would have been equivalent to about $24. I might have a bit of a head bashing. I'm trying to sort it out. Raisa in Finland even folded my page especially. The hyena, the spotted hyena. Wait. Channel 1 still sounds quite soft. What is that in the riverbed there? I'm a little bit too low. It could have. Yeah, it's like a tree. Okay, really in my nose. Really noise in my ear. Good. Okay. It's hard to show you the difference. I mean, if I show you the spotted hyena and then I show you the brown hyena, it's like almost identical. It's very, very hard to tell the difference. The thing about spotted hyena is always going to be larger because they are larger individuals, especially the females. And brown hyena, the ratio between the hind foot and the front foot is much greater. The hind foot is a lot smaller than the ratio of the spotted hyena's hind foot to the front foot. So it's something that I suppose one would only get used to by viewing over time, and since I haven't seen brown hyena tracks, I'm more familiar with spotted. And if I saw spotted hyena tracks that I thought were maybe a juvenile spotted hyena, who knows, maybe they've been brown hyena, but I just don't expect there to be brown hyena in this area, so I don't ever think of hyena tracks as being that of brown hyena. I just assume that it's just a smaller individual of the spotted hyena. And the laptop just died again, which is an afternoon occurrence. It seems something about the afternoon that laptop doesn't like. I think it gets that sort of 3 o'clock lull when it comes to, you have a bit of an energy spike at lunchtime, and then comes 3 o'clock in the afternoon, you get that little bit of a feeling for those people who work all day. So I work all day, but my desk, this is my desk. I think I have on my desk binoculars and a few gauges and a microphone, a couple of radios, and I have a drawer with some books. I've got some things in my desk that, like everybody, I hardly ever use them. The spanner, some cable ties, and a pocket knife, some sunglasses, binocular case, and a remote control device. Here's the studio up there. But a desk in an office, kind of, I know I've been there, done it, got the t-shirt. I outgrew the t-shirt, but I hate one. And the computers seem to do the same thing.